The sky above Earth was calm, untouched by the chaos brewing just beyond the stars. For centuries, humanity had lived with the knowledge that they were part of something much larger than their tiny blue planet, yet they had never encountered the unknown. They had heard stories from the farthest reaches of space about alien civilizations, some friendly, others hostile, but none of them had ever ventured this far into the solar system. Not until today. High above Earth, in the vacuum of space, an alien fleet approached. The ships were sleek and metallic, their design unlike anything humans had ever seen. They glided silently through the darkness, like shadows that had materialized from nowhere. Their destination was Earth, a planet that many of the galaxy's species considered primitive. Their mission: to observe, to evaluate, to judge whether humanity was a potential ally or a dangerous threat. The alien fleet did not come with weapons drawn. No, they had been told stories about Earth, about its history and its people, but those stories had only scratched the surface. The aliens believed that the human race was nothing more than a curious species, far from the level of the more advanced civilizations scattered throughout the galaxy. They thought they could come, watch from afar, and leave without so much as a whisper. What they didn't know was that they were about to encounter a force they never expected. Back on Earth, the military was already on high alert. The moment the alien fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, radar systems and defense satellites picked up on their arrival. The world's leaders gathered in secret meetings, nervously discussing what had just appeared above them. What did the aliens want? Why had they come? Could they be trusted, or were they planning an attack? In the blink of an eye, the world's defenses were mobilized. Fighter jets roared to life as military leaders gave orders to prepare for any possible engagement. The United Nations quickly called for an emergency summit, while space agencies from around the globe scrambled to track the alien ships. Still, no one knew exactly what the aliens intended. The aliens, however, had already made their move. Without warning, they sent a delegation down to Earth, requesting a face-to-face meeting with the highest-ranking officials of the human race. Their message was clear. They came in peace. They sought to establish an understanding with humanity, to see if there was any potential for cooperation. But the humans, skeptical of their intentions, were not so quick to trust. As the alien delegation descended, the human military stood ready. A small convoy of armored vehicles awaited them at a secured location. The alien sleek ships hovered silently above the ground, casting shadows across the landscape. No weapons were visible on their craft, but the humans knew better than to assume they came without power. Still, Earth's defense systems remained on standby, prepared for any signs of aggression. The first alien to step onto Earth's surface was a tall, imposing figure. Its skin shimmered with an iridescent glow, a soft, otherworldly light that pulsed in rhythm with its heartbeat. The alien's eyes were large, black, and piercing, their intensity seeming to absorb everything in their sight. It wore a simple, yet elegant suit of armor, crafted from unknown materials that seemed to reflect the sunlight in strange patterns. This was no ordinary alien. It was a representative of a species that had traveled across the stars, a being that had seen things beyond the comprehension of any human. The human delegation stood silently, waiting for the alien to speak. The tension in the air was palpable. Each side studied the other, sizing up their potential enemy. Despite the alien's peaceful appearance, there was an undeniable feeling of danger lurking just beneath the surface. The alien raised a hand, a gesture meant to calm the humans. Its voice, when it spoke, was soft and melodic, but carried an authority that commanded attention. "We come in peace," it said. "We are the Zelrith. We have traveled far, across many worlds, to make contact with your species. We wish to know more about you." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. "What do you want from us?" asked General Kane, a seasoned military leader who had spent his life preparing for the unknown. "Why have you come all the way to Earth?" "We wish to understand your people," the Zelrith replied. "To learn of your ways, your strength, your potential. We have seen countless species across the galaxy, but none like yours. We believe there is much we can learn from you." General Kane narrowed his eyes. The human military was well trained, but they had never faced an alien species that could traverse the stars. The very idea that these creatures wanted to study humanity seemed strange. Was it an offer of friendship, or something more sinister? As the conversation continued, the tension grew. Every word the Zelrith spoke seemed carefully measured, as if they were testing the waters. The human leaders tried to remain calm, but inside, they were unsure. How could they trust these visitors from the stars? Was this an opportunity for peace, or was it the beginning of something much darker? Suddenly, the sky above them began to rumble. The peaceful, silent arrival of the alien fleet had been only the beginning. In the distance, another ship appeared, a massive craft that dwarfed the others. The ground trembled as it descended, sending a cloud of dust into the air. Something had changed. The humans had a choice to make. Would they continue to engage in peace talks, or would they prepare for a conflict unlike any they had ever faced? What were the true intentions of the Zelrith? And could they be trusted? The alien delegation stood silently, waiting for a response, while the people of Earth stared up at the sky. The fate of humanity had just begun to unfold, and the world would never be the same again. The silence that hung in the air was deafening. The massive alien ship, which had suddenly appeared on the horizon, loomed ominously over the scene. Its sleek, metallic surface shimmered, reflecting the distant sunlight in 1,000 directions, but the energy it emitted was unmistakable. It was no longer just a diplomatic mission. Something far more significant was unfolding. As the dust settled, the human military personnel stood on high alert. The tension was thick. The alien fleet had been polite and diplomatic up to this point, but with the sudden arrival of the colossal ship, everything had changed. General Kane's hand instinctively rested on the side of his holstered weapon, his mind racing. Could this ship be a sign of an invasion? Or perhaps it was simply a show of strength, a way for the Zelrith to make their power known. The air seemed to grow colder as the new ship descended. The ground shook beneath the feet of those present, sending vibrations through their bones. No one had ever seen anything like it. It was far larger than any terrestrial aircraft, a monstrous structure that seemed to stretch on for miles, its presence dominating the sky. It wasn't just a vessel. It was a statement, a signal that the Zelrith were not to be underestimated. The alien delegation stood motionless. Their leader, the tall, shimmering Zelrith, raised a hand, signaling the others to stay quiet. The humans did the same, their expressions filled with uncertainty. What were the intentions of the visitors now? General Kane stepped forward, his eyes locked on the approaching ship. His voice was steady, but laced with the weight of the situation. "We asked for peace. What is this?" he called out. The Zelrith leader turned its gaze to the general. Its eyes, dark and deep, seemed to reflect the human's inner thoughts. There was no hint of aggression in the alien stance, but its calm demeanor didn't ease the rising fear that the humans felt. The ship continued its descent, the sound of its engines humming deep in the air. It was as though the very sky was bending under its weight. "This is not a threat," the Zelrith said, its voice steady, though there was a note of warning in its tone. "This is our way of showing you what we have brought for you. It is an invitation, an offer to demonstrate the true power of our species." The words hung in the air like a challenge. General Kane felt a cold shiver run down his spine. This was no mere diplomacy. This was a test. The Zelrith had shown their ships, their technology, but now they were revealing something more, something humanity had never faced before. Just then, the ship's hull began to open slowly, revealing what appeared to be a landing bay. A soft blue light glowed from within, casting an eerie glow across the surrounding landscape. The humans couldn't help but watch in awe as the alien ship's bay door began to lower, revealing an advanced vehicle of sorts, a transport unlike anything on Earth. The technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, and its sheer size left the soldiers in stunned silence. What are you showing us? General Kane's voice was steady, but the uncertainty in his tone was unmistakable. We are showing you the future, the Zelrith leader replied, his voice carrying an almost solemn weight. We have much to offer, but you must be prepared to accept it. Before anyone could speak, the transport emerged from the ship, its engines humming as it landed with a controlled thud on the Earth's surface. The surrounding air seemed to crackle with energy, and the light around the vehicle flickered, as though the very atmosphere was reacting to its presence. The transport was a technological marvel, sleek and streamlined, built for speed and efficiency. But what stood out the most was its size. It was far more advanced than anything the humans had ever seen. It looked like a weapon. But not just any weapon. A weapon designed for war. The vehicle's hatch opened slowly, and a figure emerged. This was no ordinary alien. This was something far more intimidating. Its armor gleamed in the light, sleek and covered in strange symbols that pulsed with an unearthly glow. The warrior stood tall, much taller than any human, and its movements were precise and deliberate. General Kane took a step back, his eyes narrowing. "What is this? What are you showing us?" he asked, his hand hovering near his weapon. The Zelrith leader nodded, acknowledging the tension in the air. "This is our way of proving our strength, a demonstration of what we are capable of. We are not here to conquer, General. We are here to offer a partnership. But to accept that offer, you must first understand the power we wield." The alien warrior stepped forward, and the human soldiers instinctively shifted into position. This was unlike any diplomatic encounter they had prepared for. The alien warrior raised its weapon, long, curved, and metallic, unlike anything Earth had ever created. It was not pointed at the humans, but the very presence of the weapon caused the air to crackle with tension. "We do not want war," the Zelrith leader said firmly, "but we must demonstrate that we will defend ourselves, and, if necessary, defend you. Our strength is what keeps the galaxy in balance." General Kane met the leader's gaze, his own thoughts swirling. Was this truly a demonstration of peace, or was it a subtle warning? Could humanity afford to trust the Zelrith, or was this just the beginning of something far more dangerous? In the distance, the massive alien fleet hung in the sky, silently watching. The fate of humanity hung in the balance, and General Kane knew that this moment would define the future. Would Earth rise to the challenge, or would they succumb to the fear that now paralyzed them? The answer lay ahead, but it would take more than just diplomacy to determine what would happen next. The future of Earth was about to change in ways no one could have anticipated. The air was electric with tension. General Kane stood still, his eyes locked on the towering alien warrior, the hum of the strange craft around him amplifying the eerie atmosphere. The Zelrith leader had made it clear that the ship's arrival was not just a display of power, it was an invitation to witness what they were capable of. However, the true meaning of this demonstration was still unclear. The alien warrior, though not threatening in posture, radiated an intimidating aura. Its strange armor shimmered, and the intricate symbols that covered it seemed to pulse with a light of their own. The warrior's eyes glinted beneath the helmet's visor, and despite its seemingly passive stance, every muscle in its body was coiled, waiting for a signal to spring into action. "General Kane," the Zelrith leader said, his voice calm, almost too calm, as if expecting what was coming. "We understand your hesitation, but it is time to show you that our power is not to be underestimated. Your people have asked for strength. Now you will see what strength truly is." General Kane's grip tightened on his weapon. His thoughts raced as he weighed the situation. He had never faced anything like this before. The human military was strong, but this was something entirely different. How could Earth stand against such advanced technology and alien might? He glanced at the soldiers around him. Their faces were tense, eyes darting from the alien warrior to their leader. The Zelrith leader stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "It is not our intention to instill fear," he continued. "But you must understand, we cannot offer partnership until you know who you are truly dealing with. Strength is not something given, it is something earned. Without warning, the alien warrior's stance shifted. It dropped to a crouch, its hands gripping the weapon at its side. The energy in the air grew heavier. The weapon, it was long and angular, with a gleaming blade that caught the light in a dazzling arc. The warrior raised it slowly, bringing it to a perfect horizontal position, and with one swift motion, struck the air in front of it. A crackling sound filled the space. For a moment, there was only the noise of the energy weapon humming, the ground beneath them vibrating with the raw power, released in a single movement. The warrior's speed was so quick, so precise, that the human soldiers barely had time to react before the air shimmered where the weapon had cut through it. General Kane took a step back, realizing that the demonstration had only just begun. The warrior's blade had not touched anything, yet the display had left a trail of destruction. A deep scar was etched into the earth, the dirt and rocks still shifting as if the very ground itself had been sliced open. "This is only the beginning," the Zelrith leader said, his voice unwavering. "What you see is nothing compared to what we can do when we are truly challenged." The human soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't a diplomatic demonstration. This was a challenge. The alien warrior had just shown them a fraction of the power it held, and the message was clear: Earth was being tested. But General Kane's resolve did not waver. He couldn't allow fear to take hold. This was a test, one they had to pass. Humanity had faced impossible odds before. They had survived and thrived, even when everything seemed lost. But this was unlike any challenge they had encountered. If the Zelrith were truly offering an alliance, they needed to prove themselves in a way that no one could ignore. "Your strength is impressive," Kane said, his voice steady but firm. "But Earth does not bow to fear. If you want partnership, you will have to prove your worth. Strength alone will not win us over." The Zelrith leader's eyes gleamed with a knowing look. He turned to his warrior, who lowered its weapon, the weapon's energy field dissipating with a faint hiss. The warrior stood silently, watching the humans with an unreadable expression. "You misunderstand," the Zelrith leader responded. "We are not here to dominate you. We are offering you a chance to become something greater than you ever imagined. But we must see that you have the courage to accept it. Courage is what matters more than strength." General Kane frowned, his brow furrowed in thought. Courage was something Earth had in abundance. But would it be enough? Could their will and resolve stand against such overwhelming power? He knew that this was not just about physical strength. This was about proving humanity's spirit. The alien warrior remained silent, its towering figure still and imposing. The massive ship above them seemed to pulse with a life of its own, the hum of its engines resonating through the very ground beneath their feet. It was as if the ship itself was alive, breathing with energy that far outstripped anything humanity had ever seen. "I will not allow my people to be intimidated," General Kane said. His voice was resolute, but there was an underlying tremor of doubt that he couldn't entirely hide. He looked to his soldiers. "We faced worse before. We can handle this." The Zelrith leader watched him closely, sensing the determination in his words. "We are not your enemy, General Kane. But you will learn that the universe operates on different rules than you are used to. The question is, can you adapt? Can humanity rise to face what is coming?" The challenge had been set. The stakes were higher than ever, and the human forces now found themselves on the edge of an unknown frontier. General Kane knew that their fate was in their hands. They had to prove that humanity could stand against the fearsome Zelrith, not just with strength, but with something more, something the aliens hadn't seen before. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary negotiation. This was the beginning of a battle for survival. "You said." The tension in the air was palpable as General Kane and his team stood at the edge of the alien battlefield. The Zelrith warrior had just shown them a glimpse of the overwhelming power they wielded, and the ground still trembled beneath them from the shockwaves of the warrior's strike. The sky above was dark, filled with ominous clouds that seemed to reflect the heaviness of the moment. The air smelled metallic, tinged with the lingering traces of energy from the alien's blade. The Zelrith leader, towering over the humans, didn't seem to feel the weight of the atmosphere. His calm demeanor remained unbroken, his expression unreadable. But behind his cold exterior, Cain could sense the challenge in his eyes, the demand for humanity to show its worth, to prove that it wasn't just survival, but strength, courage, and adaptability that defined them. The warriors who flanked the leader remained silent, their eyes scanning the humans, sizing them up. The soldiers felt their gaze, each one feeling the weight of the unseen pressure that bore down upon them. No one spoke for several long seconds. Then the silence was broken by the Zelrith leader's voice. "You have seen our power," he said, his tone firm but not hostile. "But strength is not what we seek. You will not survive in the universe by strength alone. It is your courage, your resolve, that will determine your future. And that is what we must witness. Do you have the heart to face this challenge? Can you stand against the unknown, without fear?" General Cain clenched his fists at his sides. The words stung more than he cared to admit. Humanity had fought against all odds before, but this was different. The Zelrith were not an ordinary enemy. They were ancient, powerful, and their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever seen. But courage, that was something humanity had in abundance. "We don't need to prove our strength to anyone," Cain said, his voice unwavering despite the doubts racing through his mind. "But we will prove our courage. We stand together, no matter what you throw at us." The Zelrith leader gave a small nod, as if he expected this answer. His eyes never left Cain's, studying the human general carefully, searching for any sign of hesitation, any flicker of doubt. But Cain stood firm, his resolve only growing stronger. The leader stepped back, his arm raised to signal the end of the demonstration. The warrior beside him followed suit, its towering frame moving with eerie grace, the weapon still hanging at its side. Cain's team didn't flinch, but they couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. They were in alien territory, and their very survival depended on how they responded next. Without warning, the alien warrior took a step forward, its movements as fluid as water. It was almost as if time slowed, the warrior's every motion calculated, precise, as it approached the humans. There was a hum, a soft sound that seemed to vibrate in the air. And then the ground trembled once more. The soldier closest to Cain stepped forward instinctively, his hand moving toward his sidearm, but the general's voice stopped him. "Stay back," Cain ordered, his eyes never leaving the alien warrior. "We face this with courage, not weapons." The warrior stopped just a few paces in front of Cain, its helmeted face glimmering in the dim light. For a long moment, there was no sound except for the faint hum of the alien craft and the ragged breath of the human soldiers. Every nerve in Cain's body was on edge. This wasn't a moment of peace. It was a test, one they had to pass if they wanted any hope of surviving in this new world. The Zelrith leader raised his hand again. "You are about to face a trial, General Cain," he said, his voice cold and distant. "It will test not your strength, but your courage and your ability to adapt. Only those who are worthy will emerge from this challenge alive." Cain's heart pounded in his chest. He had been in countless battles before, had led troops against overwhelming odds. But this felt different. The alien warriors were testing more than just their physical limits. They were testing the very essence of humanity. "You have shown courage in your words," the Zelrith leader continued. "Now we will see if you have the courage to act." Before Cain could respond, the alien warrior's hand shot forward, faster than human eyes could follow. In a blur of motion, it extended a long, jagged blade, a blade that seemed to hum with energy as it sliced through the air. The weapon was aimed directly at Cain. The general didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped to the side just in time, his reflexes honed from years of training. The blade missed him by mere inches, the air buzzing with the energy that followed in its wake. The warrior did not pause, its movements fluid and swift as it readied itself for another strike. Cain's soldiers gasped, But he remained calm. This wasn't about survival. This was about proving something greater. He stepped forward once again, his eyes locked on the warrior's movements. "Is this all you have?" Cain called out, his voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. "We face this head-on. We face everything head-on." The Zelrith leader observed them, nodding slowly, as if he had been waiting for this moment. The warrior paused, its weapon still raised. The general's words had struck a chord, and the test was far from over. The air crackled with tension, and all eyes were on the humans now. The challenge had truly begun. "You have shown bravery," the Zelrith leader said softly. "But the true test is just beginning. The universe does not reward those who falter. Only the courageous will survive." The ground beneath them began to tremble again, and General Cain knew this was only the beginning. The true test of courage was about to unfold, and humanity would either rise to meet it or fall in the face of an unknown threat. The air was thick with tension. General Cain and his team stood at the center of a vast alien arena, the sky above them swirling with dark clouds that flickered with strange, otherworldly energy. All around them, the alien warriors watched in eerie silence, their eyes never leaving the humans. They were about to face the second part of the trial, a test unlike any they had encountered before. The Zelrith leader stood at the edge of the arena, his gaze sharp and calculating. He had given them the first challenge, a test of courage and adaptability. And now, he would test their minds. The warriors were silent, waiting for the next move, their towering forms standing like statues, their weapons at the ready. But they did not advance. The trial was not yet physical. It was mental. "Your courage has been proven." The Zelrith leader's voice echoed across the arena. "Now you will face the unknown. Only the brave, the intelligent, and the adaptable will survive this trial. Only those worthy of the future will pass." Cain's team exchanged uneasy glances. This was not the same as the first test. The first challenge had been a demonstration of their ability to face physical danger. But this was different. This was a test of their minds, their ability to outthink an enemy that was beyond anything they had ever encountered. A low hum filled the air, and the ground beneath their feet began to shift. The once still terrain seemed to come alive, as if responding to an unseen force. The soldiers instinctively spread out, their eyes scanning their surroundings. They knew better than to stand in one place for too long, but the landscape kept changing. It was as if the world around them was shifting, warping into new and unpredictable shapes. The Zelrith leader spoke again, his voice calm but piercing. "The test has begun." Suddenly, the ground in front of them opened, and from the darkness, a figure emerged. It was not like the alien warriors they had seen before. This being was smaller, more agile, and its eyes glowed with a strange, unearthly light. Its body seemed to shift and change, its form flickering like a mirage. It was the perfect blend of danger and mystery, a challenge designed to test not their strength, but their minds. General Cain took a step forward, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the situation. This was not a creature they could defeat with brute force. They had to find a way to outsmart it. His soldiers tensed, ready for anything, but Cain raised a hand, signaling them to hold back. They needed a plan. The alien figure advanced, its form shifting faster, its movements fluid, almost too fast for human eyes to follow. It didn't speak. It didn't need to. Its very presence radiated power, and every step it took seemed to make the air crackle with energy. "We have to think," Cain muttered to himself. "There's no way we can fight this thing head-on. It's too fast, too unpredictable." One of the soldiers, Private Martinez, stepped forward hesitantly, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "We can't just stand here," he said. "We need to do something." Cain nodded, his mind racing. This was not the time for hesitation. He knew that they were facing an enemy that didn't rely on physical strength alone. This creature, whatever it was a puzzle. a puzzle that had to be solved. "Stay close," Cain ordered, "and keep your eyes open. We need to work together." As the alien figure closed in, Cain began to move, his mind working in overdrive. He had trained for moments like this, for challenges that required more than just strength. This was a test of creativity, of using the environment, of thinking quickly and efficiently. He quickly scanned the arena. The shifting terrain might seem like an obstacle, but to Cain, it was an advantage. If the ground was changing, they could use that to their benefit. He motioned for Martinez to follow him, and together, they darted to the side, using the shifting terrain to keep themselves hidden from the creature's gaze. The alien figure, still moving within human speed, turned toward them, its eyes locking onto their position. But just as it moved to strike, the ground beneath it shifted again, creating a chasm that separated them. The alien hesitated, confused by the sudden change in the terrain. Cain seized the opportunity. "Now, move." The soldiers quickly adjusted their positions, using the changing landscape to their advantage. The alien, frustrated by the constant shifts, seemed to lose its focus. Cain could see it in its movements. The creature was used to a different kind of battle, one where everything stayed the same, predictable. But Earth's warriors were used to uncertainty, to facing the unexpected. It was their strength. They continued to move, weaving through the constantly shifting terrain. The alien couldn't keep up with the unpredictability. It couldn't adapt to their speed and their ability to think on the fly. The more they moved, the more it became clear to Cain. The alien was starting to lose control of the situation. Then, without warning, the creature stopped. It froze, its form flickering once more. It looked confused, uncertain. Cain's heart raced as he realized what was happening. The creature was no longer the hunter. It had become the prey. It was trapped in its own inability to adapt to the ever-changing environment. The human soldiers had outsmarted it. For the first time, Cain allowed himself a small, victorious smile. They had passed the test, not through strength, but through intelligence, teamwork, and adaptability. The Zelrith leader stood still, watching the humans with cold, calculating eyes. He said nothing for a long moment, his gaze shifting from Cain to his team, and back again. And then, in a voice that was almost approving, he spoke. "You have proven yourselves," he said. "You are worthy." The challenge was not over, but the first step had been taken. Humanity had shown the Zelrith that they could face the unknown, think on their feet, and survive. The test of courage was just the beginning, but it was a victory nonetheless. Cain turned to his soldiers, pride swelling in his chest. "Keep moving," he ordered. "This is just the start." And as they continued forward, the unknown stretched out before them, filled with danger and uncertainty. But Cain and his team knew one thing for sure. They would face it together. And that, in the end, was all that mattered. The arena grew darker as the final trial approached, and the air was filled with an eerie silence. The Zelrith leader had watched them closely, his eyes narrowing with every move. The human soldiers had passed every test, had outsmarted every challenge, and now they stood at the brink of what could be the most dangerous trial of all. General Cain stood at the front of his team, his face set in a determined expression. His mind was focused on the task ahead. They had made it this far, but now they would face something unlike anything they had encountered before. A loud, echoing sound reverberated through the arena as the Zelrith leader raised his hand. The sky above them seemed to shift, dark clouds swirling into the shape of a giant, menacing figure. It was a projection, but it looked real, too real. The figure was enormous, its shadow stretching across the entire arena. It was a beast of pure terror, an apex predator from a distant, forgotten world. The Zelrith had conjured this creature as their final test. "This is the ultimate challenge," the Zelrith leader declared, his voice deep and commanding. "You will face the beast that even our greatest warriors fear. Only those who survive this trial will be deemed worthy to stand with us." Cain's grip tightened around his rifle, but his expression remained calm. He had faced creatures like this before. The difference was, this time, they didn't have to fight it head-on. This trial wasn't about physical strength. It was about survival. The beast was more than just a creature. It was a representation of everything the Zelrith feared in humanity. "Stay sharp," Kane said, his voice steady. "We've made it this far. We're not stopping now." The ground beneath them rumbled as the beast began to move. The soldiers quickly spread out, moving into formation, each member of the team taking a different position. They knew they had to be strategic. They weren't just going to charge in blindly. They had to outthink the creature. The beast was a massive, hulking figure, its skin a dark, mottled color that seemed to blend with the shadows. It moved with an unsettling grace for something so large, its glowing red eyes scanning the arena for any sign of weakness. The air grew thick with anticipation. Kane knew they couldn't outrun it. They couldn't overpower it. Their only option was to use their environment, to adapt and outlast. Kane motioned for his team to keep moving, using the shifting terrain to their advantage. They had to keep the creature off balance. As the beast charged, Kane and his team split up, darting through the shadows, weaving between pillars and over fallen debris. The beast followed, its movements slow but deliberate, its eyes locked on the humans who had dared to challenge it. The creature let out a deafening roar, its voice echoing through the arena like a thunderclap. The sound made the very air vibrate, but the humans didn't flinch. They had faced worse. They had trained for moments like this. They had trained for the unexpected. "We need to work as a team," Kane barked. "Stay close and keep it distracted." The team moved in sync, darting in and out of the shadows, distracting the beast and forcing it to follow their every move. It was fast, but it wasn't used to the unpredictable environment. It wasn't used to the changing terrain. Every time it lunged, the ground beneath it shifted, and it was forced to adjust. It couldn't keep up with the human speed, their agility, and their ability to think on their feet. As the creature advanced, Kane spotted a weak spot in its defense: its eyes. The beast relied on its vision, and while it had heightened senses, its reliance on sight was its greatest flaw. Kane formulated a plan. "Martinez, get ready," Kane called to the private. "We'll distract it. You hit it in the eyes when it's focused on us." Martinez nodded, taking a deep breath as he crouched low behind a piece of debris. Kane signaled to the rest of the team. They quickly split off, creating a wide perimeter around the creature. The beast, sensing the change in movement, let out another roar, its massive head swiveling from side to side. It was confused. Kane and his team moved quickly, darting in and out of the creature's line of sight, keeping it occupied. The beast lunged again, its claws sweeping through the air, narrowly missing Kane, but the moment of distraction was enough. "Now, Martinez," Kane shouted. In a blur, Martinez sprang from his hiding place, his rifle aimed directly at the creature's eyes. He fired. The shot rang out, piercing the creature's vision, and the beast howled in pain, its massive form stumbling backward. For a moment, the arena was silent. The beast swayed, disoriented, its glowing red eyes flickering in pain. The humans had struck it, and for the first time since the trial began, the beast was vulnerable. The Zelrith leader, watching from the edge of the arena, remained silent. He had expected the humans to fail. He had expected them to be overwhelmed by the creature's power, to be crushed by its sheer force. But the humans were different. They had proven time and time again that they could think faster, act quicker, and adapt when it mattered most. The beast, now blind and disoriented, continued to lash out. But it was no longer the hunter. It was the hunted. The humans moved with precision, outsmarting it at every turn, forcing it into positions where it couldn't defend itself. Kane's team worked together like a well-oiled machine, each member playing their part. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the creature fell. It collapsed to the ground with a thunderous crash, its once mighty form now lying motionless in the arena. The challenge was over. Kane stood still for a moment, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. The victory was hard-won, but it was theirs. The Zelrith leader stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "You have passed," he said quietly. "You have proven your worth." The humans had done the impossible. They had faced the unknown and survived. They had shown the Zelrith that Earth was not to be underestimated. General Kane and his team had earned their place in the galactic community. But this was only the beginning. The trials were over, but the real war was just beginning. And humanity was ready. The massive beast lay motionless in the arena, its life drained from it after a fierce and calculated battle. The humans stood victorious, but the air remained thick with tension. They had survived the creature's terrifying assault, but the Zelrith leader's cold gaze indicated that the real challenge was yet to come. Kane looked over at his team. His soldiers were tired, bruised, and battered, but they stood firm. Their mission was far from over. The Zelrith had been watching every move, observing their every decision. The test had been a trial of their strength and intelligence, but now it was about something much deeper. The Zelrith leader raised his hand, and the arena began to shift. The ground beneath their feet rumbled, and the sky above them darkened. The humans didn't flinch. They had seen strange things on Earth, but this was beyond anything they had experienced. "Congratulations," the Zelrith leader said, his voice booming through the arena. "You have passed our trial. You have survived our test. But survival alone does not make one worthy. You have only proven that you can endure. Now you must prove you can lead." Kane narrowed his eyes. "Lead? What did that mean?" The Zelrith leader's eyes glowed brighter as he continued. "You are no longer just warriors. You have been chosen to represent Earth in the galactic trials. Your world has earned the chance to stand as equals among us." The team exchanged confused glances. The galactic trials were a rare and dangerous opportunity, open only to the most elite and capable species in the galaxy. It wasn't just a competition. It was a war of influence, an opportunity to secure power and alliances on a galactic scale. The leader continued, "Your species has proven to us that you are more than just primitive creatures. You are capable of far more. Your endurance, intelligence, and bravery have impressed us all. But the trials ahead will test you in ways you cannot imagine. You must show that humanity is more than just warriors. You must show that you can lead. You must show that you can unite the galaxy." Kane's mind raced. The weight of what the Zelrith were offering hit him like a shockwave. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about Earth becoming a power in the galaxy, a force to be reckoned with. The stakes had just escalated to unimaginable heights. "We accept," Kane said, his voice steady but filled with the resolve of a leader. "We will prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars." The Zelrith leader nodded, a glint of respect in his eyes. "Then prepare yourselves. The galactic trials are only beginning." The ground beneath them cracked open, revealing a vast and complex structure below. It was an arena unlike any they had ever seen, a place where the galaxy's greatest warriors, leaders, and tacticians would come to prove their worth. It was a place of power, of politics, and of life-or-death decisions. The humans were about to enter a world where survival was no longer the only goal. They would need to outthink, outmaneuver, and outblast in a political arena that would be just as dangerous as the trials they had faced so far. The humans had entered the galactic stage, and their journey had only just begun. The challenges ahead were unlike anything they had ever faced on Earth. The trials would push them to their limits, forcing them to adapt, evolve, and work together in ways they never had before. But there was one thing the Zelrith, and every other species in the galaxy, would soon learn. The humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win. And in the face of impossible odds, they would never back down. Kane turned to his team, his eyes filled with determination. "We've made it this far, and we're not stopping now. Let's show the galaxy what humanity is made of." With that, the humans walked into the depths of the arena, their hearts full of resolve and their minds focused on the trials ahead. They were no longer just survivors. They were challengers, and they would prove that humanity was a force the galaxy would never forget.